Welcome on in to Sports Memo Today, your one-stop shop for actionable information in 30 minutes or less. Always excited when we have your Thursday show, especially now that we're in the twilight of the NFL season. It is a football Thursday edition here of Sports Memo Today. I'm your host, Dan Alexander. Happy to be with you, as always, for some NFL Conference Championship talks. We got 4 free plays coming from you from 2 of our sharpest experts in the NFL. Eric Pauly is going to be up first. He's got a side play in both games. If you want to go a little deeper down the board, one of our prop masters, one of the stars of Prop It Up on Wager Talk TV, Matt Joseph's coming with 2 props, 1 from each game. So you got actionable info for all weekend long, free right here on Sports Memo Today. You can, of course, grab the premium plays from these guys heading on over to sportsmemo.com. And with our first guest we have coming in here, Eric Pauly, find him sm.buzz/EP. Talking about trying to grab some of these premium plays, 71, 41, and 1. That's a 63% winning percentage in the NFL, that market that everybody, the talking heads, love to say, it's so hard to beat, it's tough to beat. It is. But when you're putting in the work like Eric Pauly is, you can get that nearly 29% return on investment. So, man, even wearing that Washington hat, you got to be looking good, feeling good. How's it going, brother?
Dude, I'm feeling great. Like you said, obviously people talk about how hard it is to win in the NFL, and it is beyond difficult. I'm not, it is so hard. It's the most efficient market in U.S. sports. But like I said, for me, right, the Super Bowl is February, 13th, and then the new league year starts like March 15th or so. So just like that, you have 1 month of kind of resting, and it's right back to the analysis, the head coaching changes, the free agency trackers, the draft boards, so on and so forth. So the grind never stops in the National Football League.
Absolutely, and hopefully in the next few weeks when we're chatting, you get to come on and do a little victory lap for your Sauce Gardner Defensive Rookie of the Year play that you gave out right here when we first started off a Sports Memo Today. So the grind certainly doesn't stop, and neither does the cashing of the tickets for my man EP, one that I'm holding in my pocket as well. He is one of the finalists, so we'll see what happens in those next few weeks with that.
Minus 1,200 odds, but he's not losing that. It's minus 1,200.
Yeah, that ain't too bad. Yeah, that's talk about closing line value. Yeah, that's quite the difference in tickets that we're looking at here. So, hey, man, let's get into this weekend alone. We'll go in chronological order. Start with the game going right around 3 o'clock Eastern time in the city of brotherly love. I've been drinking all the tea. I've been using all the lozenges, so my voice is ready and willing for Sunday as the Eagles are hosting the 49ers. And Eric, Eagles got some early support. We saw the 1.5 opener. That wasn't there for too long before we saw the Eagles as 2.5-point favorites. It's basically been sitting steady at that. So what do you think? Anything that you're thinking spread-wise, or do you think maybe the better way to attack this game is take the spread out of it, just find out who's going to win the game through your handicapping and play it that way? How are you going to be betting this NFC Championship game?
Yeah, so for this matchup, I'm sticking sort of on the money line. I'm not really interested in laying the 2.5 points. When you're giving me points in a game like this between teams that are so evenly matched, you're more inclined to take the points. So, for example, I saw earlier today on one of the recreational, pretty well available across the U.S. books that on an alt line, you could have got the 49ers +3 at minus 120, which is so much more plus EV than taking the Niners +2.5, even minus 110, even minus 105 there. So if we're talking points, right, 2.5 is that number where, of course, 3 is that key number. So if you can lay the 2.5 with the Eagles, you're feeling good. If you can get to the 3, I would lean the 49ers. So instead, I'm just putting the points aside. Minus 140, minus 145 on the money line for the Birds is where I'm looking at this matchup. Something that everybody loves to use against the Eagles this season, and Dan and I spoke about this really quickly before I hopped on, is the fact that the Eagles played this very easy schedule. Yes, of course, it's not up to them who they play, and the fact that they still dominated the schedule the way they did, you need to give the credit where it's due. But if you look a little bit deeper, and strength of schedule can determine in a bunch of different ways. Some people only use just winning percentage. Others use winning percentage also based on who else that team plays. You can get a better idea of how good these teams are. Because, again, you have like a Buccaneers team that will sit around 500, but we know they were much worse. But digression aside, while the Eagles, according to Football Outsiders, had the easiest schedule, San Francisco was right behind them with the second easiest schedule and only a 0.1 difference in DVOA of the teams that they faced. Brock Purdy, story's been amazing. And like, while it's so hard to quantify momentum and whatnot, and the Birds, of course, don't have as much. They lost those couple of games. Yeah, they beat the Giants twice and obviously destroyed them last week, but that is a horrible Giants team. Brock Purdy, the only reason why this 49ers team has won is because he's been able to keep a clean sheet and not turn the rock over to the other team. If it gets to that situation where whoever wins this football game is going to win the turnover battle, obviously the Niners have the best run defense in football while the Eagles have the best run offense in football. And I think this is an example of a strength outweighing a strength for the Eagles. Nick Sirianni is a good enough coach where he's not going to allow Jalen Hurts to be sitting on 2nd and 10 in obvious passing situations and then trying to make his player that he knows is not a drop-back pocket passer be a drop-back pocket passer. We're going to amazing defenses, to amazing teams on both the offensive and defensive lines, to teams with weapons on the outside, of course, as we know, on both sides. So and two head coaches who are great finalists for Coach of the Year, and that's not a fluke, even though Dable should win, but another conversation for another time. I'm going with a better quarterback in Jalen Hurts. I'm going with the more, I don't want to say complete team because we have literally the 2 best teams in the NFC going at it. Not much more you can ask for, but I lean toward the edge on the Eagles on the money line. I don't see how Purdy, and it's not even going into Philadelphia, just he's been perfect in terms of turnovers. 1 turnover is all it takes in this game, and then they wouldn't even beat Dallas last week. So I think the edge is with the Eagles this week.
Yeah, and I mean, for what it's worth, I not to shortchange what the 49ers are doing, because DeMeco Ryans incredible defensive coordinator. He should be a head coach candidate coming up this year. However, we talk all about how terrific this defense is without mentioning the fact that they're 20th in against the pass. You know, like there is a susceptibility with this team to be attacked through the air. The Philadelphia Eagles have 2 wide receivers and a tight end who can hurt you through the air, and a guy in Hurts who can stretch it downfield. So just saying, not trying to be a homer or anything, but yes, there is an incredible defense coming to town, but the team that they're playing across the sideline has some things to be excited about as well. So we're taking the points out of it, says Eric Pauly. Just take the Birds on the money line. Music to my ears, brother. Usually you're coming on and fading my team. So having Eric Pauly standing in my corner with that 63.4% winning percentage, don't hate that. That's free play number 1. Let's swing over to the AFC, and you're taking a similar approach in this championship game, because this line, dude, has been doing a samba or whatever dance you want to call it. Chiefs and Bengals danced around all week. We saw the Bengals as favorites, and most of this movement in the marketplace has to do with either the perception or any news that we're getting about Pat Mahomes' ankle. He's going to play. He's going to be, shot up with whatever they shoot these players up with. So we've seen the Bengals as favorites, and now Kansas City is painted -1 across the board. So clearly some positive expectations coming in about that Mahomes ankle. So what are you doing with this game? Because it seems like not even the odds makers have a clue on what to do as far as lining this game goes.
So like I said, with San Francisco, Philly, where it was the 2 best teams in the NFC, you got the 2 best teams in the AFC going at it. You literally, again, Buffalo in terms of DVOA was number 1, but then you have 2 San Francisco, 3 Philly, 4 KC, 5 Cincinnati. So just from a football fan perspective, I know, Dan, you have a horse in this race, but for the football fans who do not have a team in the playoffs, what more can you ask for than the 4 best teams going at it on championship weekend? Like, that's just so amazing. But I have to shout out my All Access clients because I got in on the Kansas City Chiefs at +115. So anybody who is riding with me on my All Access is holding a plus money ticket on the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, now that number has moved. The Chiefs are now favorited. Giving up that point, I'm seeing -120s, -118. So basically -120s for the Kansas City Chiefs on the money line. But when I played this game at +115, there are really only 2 factors, right? You're not going to find a lot of edges in the number total spread right now. Like odds makers, there are 2 football games. That's all they care about, right? Mm-hmm. They have college basketball, hundreds of games. Go if you want to go find some free money, go try to beat those markets and don't look at the National Football League because you're not going to find value on the spread of the money line. So the way I saw this and how I backed my play of Kansas City is, number 1, if Mahomes never had an injury for a second in that Jaguars game, the question then becomes, what do you think that spread would have been? I think it would have easily been over the 3.5. I think over the 3. At 3.5, I would have put the Chiefs over the Bengals. Not saying I'm right or whatnot, but that's where my numbers would have had it. You adjust for an injury now, and all of a sudden it over-adjusted, and you're giving me Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the National Football League, in one of the best environments with an amazing head coach, as an underdog in this matchup. And that was too juicy for me to pass up. Now, I'm not trying to, take away from it, because I still do obviously like the Chiefs to win outright. I'm holding a ticket. I'm expecting them to win outright. But when I took that bet at plus 115, it was no other reason besides, one, I thought the spread would have overreacted to the Mahomes injury, and two, it giving me Mahomes as an underdog. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but since he's been a starter, you probably haven't gotten that more than a handful of times in this entire career.
Yeah, definitely a solid point there. And talking about, getting to those lines early, similar situation for me. When I saw Kansas City at plus 1.5, you, much like me, love doing these teasers. It was a no-brainer. Give me Kansas City home dog up to 7.5. And now that it's flipping the other way, I'll probably come right back and hope for a one-score game and take the Bengals up to 7, and just hope, we get a field goal game and see how that gets home. But I think you make a great point about grabbing that all access, because with these guys and our experts here at Sports Memo and at Wager Talk, they have their odds screen open all day long. They are talking to people. They are watching these. So if you want the best line available, the only way to make sure that you don't miss out is grab that all access. Eric, when they head on over to your page, sm.buzz/EP, what kind of stuff are they going to find over there, and what do you have coming up for this weekend?
Yeah, you're going to find, as I've done every single week, never selling individual plays, always the all access for the weekend. The difference is all access for the general term of the week would be better, because you get my play when I upload it on Tuesday. Yes, on Saturday morning or Sunday morning before the games kick off, you'll get every single play that I have on that slate for the day. However, numbers change constantly, as we know, but you will get my plays for this week. I have the Kansas City Chiefs 2% on the money line plus 115. I also have, exactly like you did, so while I like the Birds to win outright, you're giving me 8.5 points with the San Francisco 49ers and 7.5 with the Chiefs. So I have that as a 2% teaser locked in. As for then, if you're saying why you're giving me both of my plays, why all access, because I've been eyeing a couple of props that I've been looking at that I have not pulled the trigger on yet. So those are the 2% plays I have out. There will be more coming. So glad to give the fans everything they want to know now, but there will be more in that package. So definitely take a look at what I have going on. All access for both these games this weekend.
He's Eric Pauly. You don't have much more time to hop in on this NFL run that he's been on. 57.2 units gained this season, 63.4% in the NFL alone, netting you just shy of a 30% return on investment. That's not too shabby for Eric's first year here with Sports Memo. So go and check him out, sm.buzz/EP. And finishing off the week, it had to be my fellow Birds fan, our prop master at sportsmemo.com, wearing his Eagles finest, Matt Josephs, sm.buzz/MJ. And Matt, we tongue-in-cheek joked about it all year long when we've been on, but it is now conference championship weekend, and our bromance with the Birds still continues here on Sports Memo today.
Yeah, that's for sure. Still playing. Got the toughest team left, I think, and that's not necessarily the greatest thing in the world, but I still think home field and Jalen Hurts will get us through.
I'll do all I can do on my end, Matt. If I have a voice the next time I talk to you, I have failed you tremendously. Let's talk about the Philadelphia Eagles and the 49ers, and you mentioned it. NFC's number one offense with the Eagles. They're taking on the NFC's number one defense with the Niners. You heard what Eric Pauly's thinking in this game, but I think the main takeaway that a lot of people are seeing is strength on strength. And you think one of these strengths, notably the rush defense and that front for this 49ers team, might cause some issues in the backfield for the Birds. What's your first prop that you're eyeing that kind of ties in with that strength on strength battle?
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of people taking the Miles Sanders rushing under, and I think that probably will hit too. But why not add the extra protection of the rushing and receiving yards under? Because Miles Sanders has not been a receiving threat. Occasionally he'll have one catch, maybe two, but that really doesn't happen. Kenny Gainwell's been kind of that guy that they've thrown to out of the backfield. Occasionally Boston Scott, but Miles Sanders is just not a receiving back. I think they threw it to him last game. He dropped it. So you're not going to have the receiving yards that's going to hurt you here. Under 62.5, and make sure to shop around because FanDuel has 62.5, DraftKings and BetMGM has 61.5. And the other reason why is, look, this team has not played a lot of tough rushing defenses all year. The number one rush defense was Tennessee. Miles Sanders had 38 total yards, including rushing and receiving. The next best rushing defense they faced was Washington, who was number 11. He had 54 and 44 yards combined in those two games. So I'm going to take the extra protection of the receiving yards, and I'm going to go under 62.5 receiving and rushing yards for Miles Sanders, who I just don't think they're going to run it that much. I think this is going to be a Jalen Hurts game.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, what we were just talking about with Eric, too, ties in with that, is if you are going to attack this team, you go over the top against them. And before we hop into this next game, you are our resident kicker guru on Prop It Up on Friday morning. So if this is a client play, if it's anything that has to do with it, you can just give us a smirk and a nod, and we'll move on to the next game. But I was just thinking, this game could play towards the under, this Eagles and 49ers game. And it's about 46.5. And in under games, I think those feet of the kickers are ultimately important. I was seeing a total field goals in the game at 3.5. It was plus 120 when I saw it. So that's combined between both of the teams. Master kicker guru, any thoughts on that total field goals, something that Robbie Gold's hit himself?
The numbers say that it would be an under. Actually, these are
really?
the top two. These are the top two teams in allowing field goals. The San Francisco's allowing 1 field goal per game this season. Philadelphia's allowing 1.2 field goals per game, and quite often you just you look at the offenses and you're like, well, they're scoring touchdowns. Field goals aren't going to do anything. San Francisco's allowing 1.1 field goals on the road. Philadelphia's allowing 1.3 field goals at home. So I would lean more towards Robbie Gould's over 1.5. I didn't play it because, quite frankly, A, I don't want to root for field goals against me, and B, the numbers tell me that neither team's going to kick a lot of field goals. So I do not like the over for over 3.5.
Man, this is why I spitball with the kicker guru himself. Check him out, sm.buzz/MJ. Hopefully saving my bankroll a little bit there. Let's swing it on over to this Chiefs and Bengals game. The total in this one sitting around 47.5. So we've seen it tick down a little bit from the opener of 49.5, but in true Matt Joseph's forms, we're not messing with the full game total. We want to take a look at the first half. We want to take a look at maybe a team total in the first half. This one almost sounds a little too good to be true. What are we talking about, Matt?
Well, when this came out on Monday and it came out where the number was even on the over and there was more juice on the under, I'm like, all right, I'm going to wait a little bit because it was hovering around a key number. I'm like, all right, if this thing goes and falls down, I'm really going to jump on it. So Tuesday went by and Wednesday it's still the same thing. So on Wednesday I locked in the Bengals over 10.5 points in the first half at even money. It was on DraftKings. Those even monies are gone. So obviously the all access clients got it pretty quickly. Because Cincinnati's averaging 14.4 points per first half, 16.7 the last 3 weeks, and 11.6 on the road. Now, look, obviously I would have loved to have gotten 9.5. The key numbers you want to be around, 10.5, 13.5, 14.5, like they're important numbers. I now need 3 scores from Cincinnati, but Kansas City's defense is good. It's not great. And we've seen Joe Burrow have a lot of success in 3 games against the Chiefs in his career. They've scored 17, 14, and 10 points in the first half. At even money and getting a low number like this, the one concern is it's supposed to be cold. It's supposed to be very cold. And there is supposed to be a little bit of wind, which could neuter the offenses a little bit. But at 10.5 with Joe Burrow, the way he's going against this defense, I'll take over 10.5. I got it even. It's minus 105, minus 110 elsewhere. I still recommend it, but I like over 10.5 points in the first half for the Bengals.
Excellent use of the term neuter the offense as well. Stellar out of my man, Matt Josephs. Matt, if they head on over to your page, sm.buzz/MJ, you have anything locked and loaded? I know you mentioned those were some client plays you were throwing their way. So what are they going to find when they head on over to Matt Joseph's page?
Yeah, there was the props came out on Monday, and there was a prop I really liked. I don't put a lot of units on a lot of props because they're so variable at times, it feels like. But there's one prop I really like. It's gone up a little bit, but it's still in an area that I kind of like. So you can get my favorite prop from the Bengals-Chiefs game up there. And then the all-access clients can get the other props that I kind of like, but just not as much.
That's Matt Josephs. Grab it right this moment over at sm.buzz/MJ. That's going to do it for us. If you enjoyed the show, all we ask you to do, make sure you hit that like button and make sure especially you hit that little bell. You never miss any of the great shows here at SportsMemo TV or Wager Talk TV. And that's going to do it for us. Big thanks to Eric Pauly. Big thanks to Matt Josephs. Of course, a big thanks to Eric behind the scenes doing a terrific job keeping the show chugging along here. I'm Dan Alexander, and make sure you join us Tuesday right here on Sports Memo Today for obviously the actionable info, but maybe just hearing how horrible I sound after screaming my head off Sunday at the Philadelphia Eagles game. I'll either be really happy or really depressed. Come and join us next Tuesday right here on Sports Memo Today.